excitement here now. We've heard a lot, but now, at the moment, we are very fortunate to have 4 wonderful people with us. I really don't think we are going to talk much. We're going to listen to stories. Their entire journey has been so exciting that from the stories that they tell us as to how they have gone ahead, we will come to the essence of what we want to talk about today. And that is giftedness. When we all have our children, by our children I mean as heads of schools, as educationists, we are always looking at children. We always tell them that you all have a gift. When God has sent you to this world, God has given you a gift. It takes time for that gift to unfold. You never know when you are going to discover that gift. Now, we are going to talk right about that. But before I begin with the talk on giftedness, they will all tell us about what they have gone through. And then I would like my august audience to tell me, what did you pick up from their experiences? And that will lead us to conclude as to what exactly giftedness is. And we are going to talk about a very fine line dividing giftedness and talented. So thank you all of you for being here. And may I begin with you, Savio, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for staying till the end. I guess, we keep the best for the last. So here we are to tell our story, and thank you for, I'd like to start with my story, which is, well, my journey starts with, me being born in a small, self-contained colony, where everything was inside that colony. The school, the hospital, and everything, the library, the club, everything was inside. And it was beautiful. It's beautiful. It's still beautiful. A lot of trees around. So I grew around in an environment which was, like, for me, everything was out there. The nature, the river, and most fascinating were books. I guess the best of the times that we have spent were in the libraries that we had. We had a couple of libraries in our colony. Along what happened in my childhood then was, I was looking at a lot of picture books. And I guess the very first books which I came across were, of course, Amma Chitrakatha and Tinkle. I was 10 then, and I used to look at these visuals, and that fascinated me a lot. And that fascination led me into drawing. I used to scribble a lot. I didn't know much about how to draw perfectly, so I used to copy all the drawings that I used to see in Tinkle or in Amma Chitrakatha. And I remember these visuals so vividly. Even today, I remember those comics. So my journey started with copying. I used to scribble a lot. I used to draw a lot on my books, on my friends' books, on the back pages. My friends still treasure those books that I have scribbled on. And that took me through school and college. After finishing school, I went into the commerce stream, and I graduated as commerce BCom, and I went ahead to do my post-graduation in advertising and public relations. Now that got me a job as a copywriter in an ad agency. But throughout this journey, I was scribbling, doodling, sketching, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do with those drawings. But that was all there. And I continued my career as a copywriter in advertising. And one fine day, I saw an ad in the Times of India, and it was about, they wanted an artist, a cartoonist for Tinkle. And I said, wow, this is like something that I grew up on. So I walked into their office, which was at Mahalakshmi Chambers, Bulabai Desai Road, on the 5th floor. And I show Uncle Pai, well, of course, I asked that I wanted to see Uncle Pai because it was like a big thing for me. But of course, at the reception, they just said, can you show your cartoons? We will just show it to him. So I gave the cartoons to the person over there, the assistant, and my cartoons were shown to Uncle Pai. He liked them. And he said, okay, let's give him 50 rupees each cartoon. And that was the first batch of 10 cartoons that I had sold. And I was very happy. This was 1990. So that began my journey as a cartoonist freelance and a copywriter full time in an ad agency, writing copy for stuff which really didn't matter. And in advertising, you have to sell and you have to write a lot to sell something. So I continued that. Along the journey as a copywriter, I also did freelance for Tinkle. And after a couple of years, it was after a few years after I was freelancing with Tinkle, it was the 31st of December, and I walked into Uncle Pai's cabin, and I wished him Happy New Year and all, and I gave him a cake. And he asked me, so what do you do these days? I said, I'm a copywriter in an ad agency. And he said, do you like to write or do you like to draw? And that's when something came to my mind, and I said, I really like to draw. He said, okay, then I'll give you a New Year's gift. And he said, you join me as an artist for Tinkle. And I guess that was the day I stopped working. And I started my career as an artist.
Thank you, Savio. So I would like you to note, now Savio has given us his story. After we finish, I will come back to my question for all of you. May I, Vaibhav, would you? Yes.
So, my story obviously starts with my parents. So, this very early story that they told me that I was one destructive kid. Any toy that they would give me, first thing I would break it. I would also take permission before breaking, and then I would so once they brought an Amar Chitrakatha comic. Okay, so that was probably an experiment. So they gave me that. I remember it's a Gajendra, like Tales of Vishnu. So the first story is Gajendra. And that I was like hooked because there were images, there were text, and there was amazing story that was coming out. Even if I didn't know to read that time, I would still figure out the expressions and ask them, what is he saying here? What is this expression? So that was maybe, like the start of the storytelling journey, which I still love. We just use various tools to tell our stories. But at that point, that excitement that a story brought in our heads, I used to, then we used to enact that story. So if I'm Gajendra, my dad will be Vishnu, my mom will be Ali, crocodile or something, and somebody will be Garuda, and we'll all act out that story. Then we will change roles. I'll be crocodile, he'll be Vishnu. So that would happen. So those are things which they've told me, so must be true. So, but after that, like that storytelling and drawing went hand in hand. I used to also love drawing in my school. These bad boys would cook up exciting stories about teachers, and I would illustrate them on the school diary or some back page, last pages and all. So I was very popular for that. But I used to make my own comics. And so basically storytelling and just putting it into visuals and having fun with it or showing it to relatives, friends, and enjoying that, their excitement. So after 10th standard, till 10th, I had no clue what I was going to do. I used to see these Amul butter campaign. It's such a old iconic campaign, it's there even now. So there was a beautiful image and a little pun, like a witty few lines.
Yes.
And I used to like them. So I thought maybe I'll do something like that because it's maybe kahani hai, and if it's supposed to be advertising, okay, then maybe I'll do something like that. I had no clue. But my dad, he got to know that there is a course called BFA, Bachelor of Fine Art, and which you could do even after your 10th grade. Those days you didn't have to finish 11th and 12th. So I was damn fortunate. And he had applied also. Like my dad was in the army and my mom, she's a maths and science teacher. So पढ़ाई में ठीक से था, but वो मुझे करने का मन नहीं था. So after 10th, when my dad told me that there is this opportunity, and मैंने application भी डाल दिया, तेरा sign भी कर दिया, तेरे को सिर्फ interview के लिए जाना है. So 2 colleges he had already applied on my behalf. He thought कि यार ये drawing करता है, तो उसका ही course है, उसमें application डाल दिया उन्होंने. And I went for interview to both places. I didn't get in one place, I got in Mysore, and I did my fine arts over there. So before joining, we had applied for 11th and 12th as well. My mom, maths and science teacher, so she was very keen कि 11th, 12th करूँ. But then this decision कि यार 10th के बाद option है, And so they asked me, "Teko kya karna hai?" I said, "Meko yehi karna hai. Meko to, I want to do this." Because there was drawing, there was painting, there was sculpture, there was photography, photojournalism, then printmaking. So all that like blew my mind, you know. And when I'd gone to the college for interview, I met the teachers, I saw the college. So it was like, wow, this is where, you know, you get those vibes, no? So I was very clear, I want to do this. And they were so supportive. They, like, I don't remember, you know, even if they might have been tensed or not, I have no clue. But they said yes. I remember one uncle was also there. But there were no hurdles. I don't remember any hurdles. So that way, I'm very, very fortunate. And so when I went for fine arts, that was a 5-year course. By the end of it, I got to know there's a place where you learn to make animation films. So that was National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. So I applied over there. And that's how my journey into animation began. So that's how.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Look, now, Ali, we come to you. Would you tell us your story, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. As I told them previously, also I feel the least accomplished to be on this panel, but I'm still thrilled to be here. So it was, I mean, for me, my journey started as a mix of, say, fate and luck and coincidence. I got a Johnson's Baby commercial when I was 6 months old. So that's the first acting I did. And then I think about 2-3 years later, my mother started getting calls for me to continue being in ads. And that went on until I got into the first grade. And that's when films started happening. So I did a film called Family Ties of Blood, which was with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. I was playing his grandson. Then I got a film called Fana. And one after the other, I mean, by this point in time, I had started enjoying doing what I was doing. I really enjoyed acting. It was always fun for me. I got to bunk school. But coming to that, at some point or the other, I mean, my academics were going to be, in some form or the other, roadblock to my acting career. And that's when I feel like, you know, school stepped in. I had a mentor in my life who really understood and supported the idea of me pursuing acting. So it was difficult because I had to kind of keep up with my grades and all of that. But I was keen, I mean, my mom was keen at the time for me to manage to balance out both. And that's how it went. So this little juggle of studies with shooting went on for a really long time, going up to, say, the 8th grade or something. But by then, I had kind of figured that I was more inclined towards all the art that was taking place behind the camera. And suddenly, I was just more fascinated by how the script was written, how the shot was being taken, what the director was telling his actors, and the entire thought process involved in making a film. So I knew, I think in the 6th or 7th grade, that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And in our place of work in the industry, they say that no experience, I mean, no film school can be on-field experience. So as I kind of got out of school, I did some ADing, and you just keep learning, reading, watching a lot of movies, and eventually wiggling your way through, and that's where I'm at right now. So it's been a journey from being in front of the camera to transitioning and going behind the camera. And it's been an absolute thrill, and I can't, I mean, I wouldn't have been here without tremendous support of a lot of people and teachers, mentor figures, and yeah, I would dedicate being here to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Now, before I come to you, Malti, I'll just throw open the question so that they can let them identify before we. Malti is our expert here, as you've just heard in her introduction, that she is involved with the schools where gifted children are being taken care of and educating them. So my question to all of you present here is that what did you think, or what was it which influenced or helped Savio become who he is today? Just one factor, if you could name, if you have heard his story, what was it that made Savio? Yes, please. Okay, his passion for art, and anything else? Savio, you all have to say whether it's right or wrong, okay? His passion for art, definitely. We can't hear, please.
A born gift.
Okay, his gift, okay. Born. No, they're all gifted. They're all very gifted and very talented. They're just wonderful. But there is something which has nurtured this.
Uncle Pie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are we right, Savio?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
You can say.
Yes.
I guess, if Mr. Pai would not have given me that New Year's gift, I would have been a copywriter.
Right. So it was identified. It was identified beautifully. So his giftedness came out into the open. For Vaibhav, can anyone tell me who was the supporting factor, or who was it who helped nurture and, right, father, family, right? Should we say that? Family. And what about for Ali? Teachers. And now I would like Ali to give credit to your mentor who's right here with us.
Yes, my principal from my school, Asha ma'am. Asha ma'am, thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aisha. I had deliberately told Ali to keep it a secret till the end. I said, first we must let everyone know who influenced you. And then we will announce who it was, because ma'am is right here with us. Thank you.
Oh, ma'am, you're looking so different.
No, he didn't probably see you from here. He mentioned all his teachers. So now Malti, we come to you. That these are all our panelists, very talented, very gifted. Now if you could take us through the journey as to what made you go into this particular field of taking in children who are gifted, and even thinking that we have to do something different and special for them. So once we have Malti speaking, thereafter we will have just a few questions with our panelists.
Thank you, Aditi. And thank you for this opportunity of sharing as to what we do with children who are gifted, like the people who are here. And I think right from morning, I've been seeing qualities or characteristics of giftedness in quite a few people who were with us on this very dais. So I was a person like you who knew that every child is different, every child is unique, special, good, and has potential. So why giftedness? Why a center for the giftedness? So just like you, many of us who are educators and who manage schools, I never really bothered about children with gifts. Because for all of us, if you see the bell curve of any population, half of the population, the center part is the average. You have children with, we call them CWSN, children with special needs is one side, left side. And the right side is children with high ability. So what takes our sympathy, empathy, and everything is the left side, children with less ability. Today we had Kanak who said that he was a dyslexic child. That bothers us a lot. We are still coping with handling this part of this sector. But what we are totally unaware of, and we allow the children to fend for themselves, is the right side. That is the children with high ability. Because we think high ability means all the children who are scoring the highest marks. For us, marks is very important. So even I thought like that. When you get good marks, then that is high ability. I was a teacher. I have the experience of teaching for 3 years. And I used to like some children, which I think as educators, many of us have this liking for some children, and we know that we bond very well with these children. And what excited me was the creativity. I was a language teacher. The creativity which I saw in the compositions of my children. So I would first look at, that boy's name was Ranjit Deshmukh. I would look at wait for his paper and read his paper. Whereas all the others scored very high marks. They would fight for their marks. So that is one. The other was, I went to do my school psychology in the 90s in a center which I did not know was in Pune, which dealt only with children with high ability. It's called Jnana Prabodhini, and they have a research center, psychology. I was the first batch of school psychology because we wanted to have counselors in our school. So first I said, let me see whether counseling is really important, because teachers are counselors. Why do we need other counselors? And as I was doing this, I was doing my course, I suddenly, it was like a flashback, because I was able to connect to many people in my school as a teacher when I was teaching. And I have a personal story to say of my elder brother. My elder brother, he was very good in making planes when he was about 11 or 12 years old. He was able to make planes. He was even made a transistor, very good in painting. I still have his painting. He's no more, of course, but I still have his painting. And nobody taught him anything. And this brother of mine was very, very loving brother, elder brother, just 2 years older to me. He went into the wrong company. My father being a doctor, he wanted him to become a doctor. And my brother went into, was interested in engineering. And of course, I belong to that age when whatever parents say the children have to take. And he went into alcoholism and drugs. And the person who would open the door for him in the night was me. So as I was doing this school psychology course, I said, oh my God, Anna was gifted. And as family, we have not done the right thing. And when I looked back, since my father-in-law was a trustee of a school, I said, oh my God, can I do some difference in that? But then I alone cannot do anything. I need people to actually run the gifted center for me. We don't have trained people. So the genesis of the gifted center started like this because of my personal experience, and just now what you heard from all these people, and even from just a talk before with that Anand Neelakantan. He said he was a rebel. And I realized that my brother was a rebel too. But he did not know. So these children they are very, very tender with their feelings, with their socio-emotional and psychological. You know that there are so many people going into IITs and then committing suicide. So we need to take care, yes, of the gifts which they have, because that is, naturally it comes to them from the genes. But if you just leave it like that, saying that, oh, he's gifted, without supporting him, like for instance, Savio had a mentor in Mr. Pai, Vaibhav had his parents, and he also shared, which of course many of us in the school have, is he said that because his father was in the army, he said that every school he went, he had a chance with all the extracurricular activities,
Yes,
right?
yes. Kendriya Vidyalaya.
Kendriya
Central
yeah.
schools. So there were a lot more of co-curricular activities than studies, so I really loved that.
Yeah. So he said that. So this is what we call school-wide enrichment programs. We are already doing it, but what we need to do is consciously look at connecting the children with what they are good at. We can't say that the talent is all there for us to see, but we see a sort of a set direction. So today, I think I would like to suggest that please become aware that children have talents and not focus only on mathematics and science or language, because it can be anything.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malti. So now I have a question for anyone can answer. That we have a situation where we identify that a child has an amazing ear for music. So as a parent or a teacher, they identify that, okay, this child is amazing and can pick up tunes and can, play it on the synthesizer. And they tell the child that, hey, look, you've really got an amazing talent here. So why not, let's hone that particular skill. How do you say if the child just says, no, I don't want to do this? And yet you know that this child has an amazing talent. So what do you make of it then? Because we know that the child is very talented because there are 40 odd kids in the class, no one has that. We don't even have to teach the child the music notes or anything. And the child just listens and picks it up. But the moment you tell the child that you're going to go and practice, no, I don't want to. So what do you say? What do we do then? With such children, what do we do?
I'll just see what happens is the dynamics between, now you're asking about a parent, what does a parent do?
Parent, teacher, anyone, any adult dealing with the child.
Yeah. So what happens is whenever, after a certain age, what the parent says, especially an adolescent, the child does not want to listen. The same thing when a loving teacher says, the child will listen. Or even we have seen in our experience with the gifted, some close family member, like an uncle or an aunt, they have great influence, or a family friend. They have great influence over the child than the own parents. That has been our experience. So here it is more of that rebellious nature of the child. I don't want to listen to
anyone. Right.
So that is, it's a sort of a psychological and a socio-emotional need that needs. So we have quite a few. Even the counselors need to be trained to handle these gifted. So we have a counseling unit that trains these people, because these children, you cannot tell them that this is to be done.
Right.
They will not listen to you.
Right.
The solution has to be found by the child herself or himself.
Right.
But you can sort of direct the child without the child knowing that you are direct. That is the technique of counseling, which has to be taught to the counselor.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, any of you, could you tell me that, is there any way that you all felt different? Like since you had such special talents, when you were in your, like you said, Savio, that you would draw and you would scribble and then they would just love to keep those. But was there any point of time, Savio, you, Vaibhav, Ali, is there any point of time that you felt that you were different from the others?
I don't think we really think at that point, We just indulged in things that we really love to do. I love to draw, and I would always say this with like anyone who has talents, and if they really love to do it, just allow them to do it, rather than telling them to do it. Like, even if today my daughter draws well, I have never taught her anything. A lot of people tell me that, maybe she's taken it from you and she also draws well. But believe me, not one single day have I ever spoken to her about drawing. Rather, I even never told her to draw. So I would always say that, whenever you spot a child who's talented, who's skilled, just nurture and give that child that space, that freedom to do what she or he loves to do whenever they want to do it. I guess it's all about letting them love what they do, rather than telling them, you should draw at this time or you should sing at this time and there should be some schedule for it. I guess that doesn't work.
Thank you. Vaibhav, would you like to add something? Anything on to?
No, I agree, because I never got the feel was that from people around that, that Atrangi thing was there in family. They would say, Joker banega, or jo bhi hai. So that little difference was there. But then I thought all my cousins were like that. So I never took it to heart, or even at school I had lovely friends. Never felt that we were different in any way. Like Savio mentioned, everybody enjoyed doing what they did. And when I went into fine arts, it was like all nutcases like me, so it was like, wow, everybody's different.
Okay, so Ali, I would like to ask you that when you were in school, you did mention that there were children in the class who were doing, making things which was never really appreciated. So would you like to share with us that what were the thoughts running in your mind at that time? By first, of course, giving an instance of what made that thought come into your mind when you had the children.
So, to answer your previous
Yes.
question, I think initially, first of all, I didn't really know that I had or was it in any form different. But at some point you start feeling it in school when you are absent, and by the time you've come back, small groups have been formed and you feel a little misplaced. With the years that stopped happening,
Okay.
but I was always a bit of a daydreamer.
So it stopped happening because people realized that you had a special gift or something, or what was it?
I would say it stopped happening because I think everyone in the class and the friends and all the teachers, they eventually got used to it.
Okay.
So it was easier for me to catch up.
Right, okay.
I think maybe in the first, second grade it would affect me a lot more that I've come back after. I remember crying at the gates of school that I don't think I can do this.
Okay.
After summer vacation or whatever. But with time, with the passage of time, that stopped happening, and there was a nice system that was formed. In retrospect, I do many times remember instances like drawing and writing ridiculous stories at the back of my rough books while the lecture period is on, and having a chalk thrown at me or something. And these stories are about fictional characters meeting each other. Superman meets Ninja Turtles,
Okay.
and things like that. Also, a lot of my friends and cousins. So there were instances of doing storytelling. My friends and cousins used to love my stories that were all about exaggeration. And some of my cousins used to also call me Faku Master, because that was the thing at the time. As I grew older, came into my 9th and 10th standard, now coming to the second part of your
Yes.
question. By this point, it was my teachers in school and my students, my friends, they knew by then, what I have done. And I had support. When I used to write a story or two, I could take it to my teachers and they would give me feedback, and that was really nice. However, as I was sharing with you the other day, there was a few instances of, students in my class who weren't necessarily academically the brightest, but that is not to say that they weren't extremely gifted.
Talented or gifted.
They were extremely talented, extremely gifted. So there was a boy in my class who was, not probably the best in getting the good grades and all of that, but he used to spend all his time on his desk with scrap metal, junk, tools, and he would be making stuff, and stuff that was amazing, because I have actually seen him make a glove with electromagnets that he used that could pull a Coca-Cola can from say 2 or 3 feet away, or the superhero Iron Man's head that opens up and that lights up, and he would weld it, and I don't know when he would do all of this, but this is what he would be doing. And I just feel that if there was not so much importance given to his grades versus what he was actually creating, that would have been amazing.
Right.
That's what I feel.
Okay, that's lovely. So that's another perspective that we present here, that it's sometimes we recognize when children are gifted or talented, but there are times that we as teachers, as educationists, sometimes overlook it. And this, when Ali had shared with us, I found this was an amazing example of it. That we are so all the time concentrating on the grades, how many marks the child is getting, that we normally don't look at it, and then we wonder, not only we, but I think even parents wonder. Even if you were to tell them this, that look, your child has created something, their question would be, but number to nahi aaye. Exam mein kya karega? What competitive exam is he going to go into? So that is a mindset, I suppose, which now, Malti, I think you could take it ahead, that when they are going into your sessions for gifted children, are there parents who are so concerned about it? That
Many parents, in fact, we have a parent support group in Bombay itself. We have one in Chennai. And of course, Pune, since we run the center in Pune, we have parents who are in this support group. Basically, the support group is how do I handle not the academics of the child,
yes.
but more the socio-emotional. How do we handle that space of the child? Because what happens is, these children have different sort of emotions because of the relationship that they have during the school, in the school community with friends, because they are very good when they are doing things alone. Teamwork is very difficult for them. In fact, one of our students, he's got the President's Award for creating an Urja lamp based on gravity. Both the kids were identified as gifted. They were on this project from 8th standard. 8th, 9th and 10th, they were on the Atal Tinkering Lab. But out of the two, one parent dropped out, said, we don't want to be in the gifted program. So there was only one child who was in the gifted, in our nurturing program. And that child had to be counseled because he was having a lot of emotional problems. Whereas the other child, when we interacted with the other child, we realized his home front was very, very conducive to managing his emotions. Whereas this child, his home front was not good in managing. So the counselors in the gifted center managed this child. So they were able to make a good team, and finally they got the President's Award. So this is the sort of thing which we need to create in our schools, because gifted program cannot be an exclusive program. It has to be an inclusive program. It has to come into the system. It's not something like something which is separate, because it has to be treated as a natural phenomenon, saying that we have children, when we talk about inclusion, we normally talk about CWSN only. Children with learning disability, a blind or a child with autism or ADHD, when we include them, we think that is inclusion. For me, inclusion is all abilities. So when we work on both sides of the spectrum, then only you can call. In fact, we have a group of people who are writing a policy for the government that please include this also into inclusion. High ability is not somebody, they are also children with special needs, equivalent to the other group. They also need support. They need support from the school community. So we are in that process. I hope we can do. I'm happy that the NEP today is talking about children with high ability. At least they know that there is a population, a group of children who are high ability. So I think they will all benefit.
Right. So I have a question here that in our schools, often we have children who are very boisterous, who are running around, and when we talk to them, and then they are certified as, or I wouldn't say certified, identified as having ADHD. But we have also seen that such children may be excellent at sports, and they may be very good at music, or especially percussion instruments. They may be very good at the tabla or the drums. Drums I have seen a lot. So do you really think we can identify, I would like an opinion from all of you, as such children can also be identified as gifted and talented children? What do you think? Your opinions, please. What do you think, Ali?
Absolutely.
Right?
I definitely agree. I have a cousin of mine has, I don't know if it's diagnosed, undiagnosed, but a case of, ADHD, major attention span problem, known for being the slowest writer in the exam halls, which is why he used to have extra time and all of that. But he's a bookworm. He would devour books from the 3rd or 4th grade, fat books in the library, spend his entire lunch break over there. So it's also a lot about, it's easy to be dismissive and think that he's mischievous and not interested and just there to pass sort of snide, sarcastic remarks at the teacher. But what that can sometimes lead you to is discovering that there is probably a sheen for a greater thing.
Right, exactly.
Even if there might be, a disability, for lack of a
Right.
better word. Yeah.
Okay. Vaibhav, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I just feel that, that the mentor's role or the teacher, maybe in schools, they are, they have a certain subject or a certain curriculum, which is like part of the job. But other than that, they are people who are observing these, children every day. And I feel a good mentor is a person who is waiting for what is, unique or what is the gift in a particular child. And those mentors would even let them know, and they would probably make them very comfortable that they have that gift. Because I should feel confident that I have that gift. It should not feel like it's a manufacturing error, or it should not feel like that's a bad thing.
Okay. Right.
It's my strength.
Right.
So I feel good mentors, I think that's why like gurus are like given that darja of, parents.
Right.
So because they not only spot it, they will probably make way for that energy to flow.
And nurture it further.
So if that child knows that yes, these people like what I do, that itself is good enough. That's a space they have in their head. They feel free. They don't feel like they'll put some hurdle. So just that thought of not having a hurdle is a big deal. So I feel, at the school level, teachers, of course, and, even at work, when we are working with colleagues, they are such inspirational colleagues. So even over there, a lot of my role as maybe a creative director is to just remove hurdles from their way.
Correct.
Because they have to flow.
Yeah.
And that's when they'll enjoy themselves, and we will enjoy watching them flow. If you do anything in between, they won't enjoy it and we won't enjoy the output. So even as a teammate, as a colleague, sometimes you need to just get out of their way. That is the best decision.
Perfect.
And in fact, encourage them ki jao, jahan jana hai, jao. We will just remove obstacles from your way.
Perfect. So I would like to now open it up to the audience. We have such wonderful people here with us. If you have any questions that you would like to put across, yes, please.
So you had mentioned that when you are able to identify a child's talent, you give them the space to explore, right? And do not put the kids in a schedule. So nowadays everybody is saying, put the kids in schedule. You should completely put in schedule. What is he doing in the afternoon? He should be like completely packed. So what should we do? Which is actually good for the child. And suppose if I have identified a talent in my child and I want to send him for some special classes or coaching, and say if my child is resisting, what should I do? Because I'm not an artist and I may not be able to teach him that, which he can learn from an outside teacher, right? So what would you advise?
So, I guess, when we identify these talents in our kids, the first thing is, what more can I do for my child? Where can he or she expand that knowledge of, when I talk about drawing, for example. I was in Kashmir for an event, and I was there conducting a workshop for children in drawing, and they were very tiny kids. So there was some kid who was around 4 years old, and there were a lot of them. And there were the parents sitting at one side. So after the workshop was over, one of the parents came up to me and said, my child is very talented, abhi uska kya karna hai, uska koi classes ya kuch karna hai. I said, how old is the kid? And she said, he's like 4 years old. So what can I do now? Can I send my child to any classes? And I think that's the last thing that you should do. When you put your child to one of these classes, you are actually taking away that thing, the creativity which that child has, and then the child is getting into some sort of a mold which somebody else is going to be telling the child what to do. The best thing is to leave the child alone. Like I said, give the child that space and the time to pursue these things that they love to do. When we force them into a class, I'm not saying that it's wrong to send them to drawing classes or all of that, but I would say tell them tell your child to take a walk, go out, observe things, I know today most of the children spend most of our time in-house. But when do we go out for a walk? When do we look at things around? And this is something that I tell a lot of children in schools. Like when you go for a walk, do you observe things or do you look at things? So there's a huge difference between looking and observing. You know, when we just look, we look at the tree. But do we observe the tree? Do we observe the people in the market? When you do this consciously, like, you know, when a child observes, he would go back, she would go back and put this down on the paper. So this is what we need to do as parents, as teachers, nurture these skills of observation. And I'm speaking purely for what needs to be done for an artist. Increase, like, you know, see to it that, you know, child gets that enough time to spend on the things that he or she loves to do. And don't make a schedule for them. Just let them do what they want to do. And they'll do it happily.
I had a question. The common thread among all the panelists here is that somebody had identified the giftedness, nurtured it, and then went on to give opportunity for it to thrive. The question that I have is, keeping that in mind, how are we empowering the teachers to identify who is gifted in a classroom? And when that is being identified, do we give them or enable them or give them that opportunity? So, you know, in a class where there is 40 students and there is a teacher, how many of these teachers are empowered to identify giftedness? And what can we do about that?
That's a very good question. So initially we had a lot of problem because we first gave a checklist to our teachers and we told them, this is the checklist, and please, if you feel that it matches, you suggest who are the ones who fall in that. Then after that we threw it open to the parents and we asked that who are gifted. So the parents gave a lot of names of the children who are gifted. And we also have a test by which we identify. So it is not one identification tool that we use. We use a whole lot of tools. Of course, many of these tools are taken from the West. So we are in the process of creating our own tools because our culture is different. So we need to work on our own tools. So we are developing the tool ourselves. But at present, we are having a whole basket of tools which we administer to see whether the child gets identified as gifted. That is one. And the other is, even after identification is done, this whole process, we have had conversations with teachers saying that, do you think these children are gifted even after the process is complete? And they have come up with, I think this child has not been identified, but I think based on the characteristics, the training which we have done, they say, I think this child is gifted. So we tell the teacher, include that child into the gifted. There is no hard sort of line demarcating that this is a gifted child or that is not gifted child. Because there is a beautiful saying which by one of the researchers who has done a lot of work, that what is sufficient and necessary for a not gifted is necessary but insufficient for a gifted. So everybody is there in the classroom, but for a gifted, you have to give that something which for the whole class it was sufficient. But you support a child who is weak by whatever additional things you want. What are you doing for the children who need that support to pull them up? So what, again I repeat, because since all of us are educators, this is a beautiful saying which I love and I quote this everywhere. Necessary and sufficient for the non-gifted is necessary but insufficient for a gifted.
Perfect.
So whenever we are doing anything, let us keep. Now, for instance, this Pari series, I was enamored by the Pari series. Because if we can use it with children with creativity, with talent in language, and because it creates a thinking process. And for the regular children, they don't need of so much of thinking, analysis and all, they don't need. They are happy with whatever. You make it very experiential and you make it engaging, at least they will get the concepts right. But that is not enough for the children with high ability. You have to make it all the same. This is what is necessary. You engage them, you have experiential, you make them explore, but what you need to do is you make them challenge. You challenge them by making them come up with their own ideas. That we are unable to do because we are not trained. And we don't spend so much of time because we have a classroom size of 40. So here I say that let us use technology. Let us use technology to help the teachers to identify this differentiation, so that the teacher is already equipped. Oh, if this child is very good in language, what are the challenging things I can do? If this child is good in art, what are the challenging things I can do? Because up till the 12th standard, you can't pinpoint and say, you do this, you're good at this, because there will be a huge array of things they will be gifted. Just now we heard Vishwanath, Shobha was telling us he's good in subjects, academics, he was good in music. There will be so many people like that. But very few will have an opportunity to be able to do what they love doing because of whatever, their economic conditions or whatever. Now yesterday I was in another conference, I met a blind child. And according to me, this blind child, out of 6, I identified one child who was exceptional. So immediately called up my nurturing domain in charge and I said, this is the phone number. He is a very poor child. I said, let us take him as a case study. Because in India, research on the gifted is very limited. So I think all of us have to shake ourselves and say, okay, we'll all help you in research. That will be really great.
Right, thank you. I think there's just one last question from Colonel Shekhar.
Yeah, I'll just quickly. Roger Federer, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was trained from the age of 4, was considered a genius. The father went along with him. The father put him ahead and he said he will become a bridge between the East and the West. Roger Federer, tennis, genius. The mother, father left him free, got him involved in everything else, allowed him to develop the right way. Tiger Woods was a genius with a flawed character, like Diego Maradona. Roger Federer is considered a role model. Both are gifted. How does it happen, and is there any sense in getting the gifted any which way through such processes which sometimes harms them more than anything else?
If I may just put in a word here, that one of my questions here which we were going to discuss, but now of course we can't due to lack of paucity of time. But yes, to answer to that, there are cases and situations, Colonel, where even being gifted has led them to become school dropouts. Now, the situation that you have just explained, told us that there are these extremes that we have. So, giftedness, in my perception, you all would be able to tell me even more, is that if it is not nurtured in the correct manner, can go to extremes.
The father nurtured, games was done, it was all focused. The father became quite, he's going to be a bridge between the East and the West. He'll be greater than Nelson Mandela.
Right.
It's a famous case study.
Yes, yes. Huh.
So, for consciously, Roger Federer, in spite of being a genius, was left free to develop on his own. So, I'm saying one gifted person was really
Nurtured, yes. Huh.
Another one gifted, identified himself as gifted over a period of time.
Yes.
So, whether it's Maradona or very many people otherwise, sometimes training the gifted backfires.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. See, there are extremes to both. Either you let them grow free, or if we, like it was what I said in the beginning. We know that the child is gifted, but the child rebels and says, I don't want to do anything. Maybe later on they pick that up. So I presume that giftedness comes out of that, that you just have to be left. Yes, darling, we are. So thank you very much, all of you. Savio, ma'am, everyone, thank you so much. And I think we've had a lovely discussion. Thank you to my lovely audience who have painstakingly sat through the whole of it. Thank you very much.